Basically, NVIDIA sells these H100 chips, and they also sell these A800s, and basically they sell these watered-down versions of some of the high-powered technology chips, some of the best products. They sell watered-down versions of that to China because the CHIPS Act has banned the full-powered, high-powered versions from actually being sold to China. NVIDIA and AMD have had to deal with this for over a year now, and companies like NVIDIA and AMD get somewhere around 20 to 25% of their revenue from China. Problem is, now they can't sell their best chips to China, so China is incentivized to manufacture their own best chips by stealing as much proprietary data as they can from companies like NVIDIA or even ASML, where they publicly have stolen advanced lithography EUV equipment, data sets from, and instruction sets from for how to manufacture these actual machines that make the chips. So China is realizing, all right, well, if we're only going to get the cheap stuff, then let's just use the cheap stuff until we can make our own great stuff. It's literally the same thing even at ASML itself. ASML is only able to sell their DUV lithography equipment to China, but not their EUV equipment, which is for the most advanced stuff. So, China obviously doesn't like that, and again, now they're trying to create their own companies to manufacture this equipment, and then in the meantime, while they use this watered-down equipment, the Biden administration has realized, you know what, we may not even want China to be able to buy the watered-down equipment. Let's just ban everything, well, nearly everything related to advanced chips. And so basically what they're doing is they're going from just banning the most advanced chips to closing some loopholes to banning even more chips. NVIDIA and AMD aren't very happy about that, stock-wise, at least in market reaction, which is understandable because this should be a hit to revenue. Initially, we thought, okay, NVIDIA and AMD got this solved. They basically made a chip with some safeguards on it that now they can still sell to China. Well, now Biden and the Biden administration are suggesting, nah, still too much for China. Obviously, that doesn't help with U.S.-Chinese relations, which actually seemed like they were thawing as of the Biden administration's meeting with Chinese officials. And just actually the last few weeks, it felt like there was almost a reset of relations coming between the United States and China. Yet, here we are with more aggression coming. I'm not here to suggest everything should be perfect and we got to roll out the red carpet for China. And obviously, there are a lot of criticisms to have for China, but it just seems like the more of these tensions that we have, the more complicated the relationship gets between the United States and China, and then we start talking about war with Taiwan again, which there's a lot of talk about Taiwan potentially creating election risks or post-election risks for China invading Taiwan. The argument has been made that, well, hey, look, if China ends up losing, or their party, the party they're backing ends up losing in Taiwan, buckle up. But really, war with Taiwan is a topic for a different video, but it just gives you a little bit of a sense of how much of the tension there really is between the United States and China. And just as we thought it was cooling, it seems like the Biden administration has figured out how to reactivate some of that pain. Now, so we've got that in the world of AI. Then we've got this Snow-NVIDIA partnership people keep asking me about, so let's touch on that quickly. And then after we touch on that, I really want to give you some of my personal thoughts about, is this whole AI craze just hype, and how should we really be positioned around it? So we'll talk about exactly that. Okay, so regarding the Snow-NVIDIA partnership, this has been done before. This isn't like something super crazy and unique. These partnerships have literally been done before. Snowflake had virtually the same partnership. And I think a rough, easy way to think about it is when you look at your calendar and you see an expiration on June 30th, you go to the link down below, like meetkevin.com, and you sign up for the programs on building your wealth. Because you know you're going to lock in the best price guaranteed, and you're going to continue to get amazing content for free as the courses grow in value. Link down below. Right. Anyway, so basically what was announced is there's this official partnership that now, well, let me backstep for a moment. Before AI was AI, big data was like this sexy phrase that everybody talked about back in the day. Everybody wanted to understand, how are we going to analyze big data? And it was companies like Snowflake and Palantir that suggested, hey, put all of your big data into our bucket, and our bucket manager will draw insights for you. Insights that you might not have even realized exist. It's kind of like what Palantir does with their criminal database and their terrorism database and their war databases, where it's like, give us everything that you know, and we'll stitch pieces of the puzzle together that you didn't even realize were happening. This is obviously leveraging neural nets, which is a form of artificial intelligence. It's just all basically been rebranded as AI because that's a sexy thing to say these days. Point is, NVIDIA has a NeMo platform that allows the development of language models. And a lot of these database companies are like, wait a minute, we don't want people taking their data off of our platforms and running away to these, newfangled AI things. So how can we figure out how to just rebrand what we have as having AI and then maybe adding in some, updated features? The problem is these features don't really seem that fantastic. So I'll give you their marketing pitch, and then I'll give you some of their example use cases, and then I'll let you decide. So their marketing pitch is that, quote, together NVIDIA and Snowflake will create an AI factory that helps enterprises turn their own valuable data into custom generative AI models. Okay, so the whole point of Snow's existence has always been that you could take a lot of data and do more with it. Now it's just being rebranded as an AI play. Okay, so what is this AI factory? What are some of the use cases? Well, here's a type of use case. Healthcare insurance models could answer complex questions about procedures that are covered under various plans. Okay, first of all, we have language bots. Bard, GPT-4. GPT-4 is pretty exceptionally great. And quite frankly, what it seems like everybody is doing is just taking GPT-4 and plugging it into every stupid thing that exists in the world. And it just does the same thing that GPT-4 does everywhere. Call me a little bit cynical, but the reality is, use the chatbot. Doesn't matter if I have to go to the tab for OpenAI or here. Now the idea is that, you could train the language model on your own proprietary data. Fine. I'm just not convinced how profitable that kind of service will be, more so than what the company has already been doing. Do I really think this partnership is a game changer where all of a sudden I'm going to look at the income statement for Snowflake and go, you've plugged in essence, I'm oversimplifying, right? GPT-4 into Snowflake, I will mark your revenues up at 10% a year beyond what I previously thought. No. And that's one of the frustrations that I have with AI, but I'll get to more of that in a moment. Here's another one. A financial services model could share details about specific lending opportunities available to retail and business customers based on specific circumstances. Okay, we don't need AI to do that. I can hand you a pamphlet that's like, if your credit score is 640, here's what we got for you. A crap credit card. And if your credit score is 740, we got a HELOC for you and a personal loan for you and, a happy ending. I don't know, whatever. Point is, it's not the examples they're giving aren't that impressive. Deploying custom LLMs used for generative AI applications such as chatbots and intelligent search. We get it. That's basically what everybody is plugging in right now. Everybody's figuring out how to harness the power of this GPT-4 innovation, plug it in. So, where does my cynicism come in? And what do I think is a danger for this AI craze? Now, keep in mind, I feel like, honestly, I think sometimes it's the most frustrating part of what I do is last fall, I started really getting excited about chips because chips were crap. Nobody wanted to touch chips. It was like October. Everybody's like, dude, PC demand is in the toilet. Chips are dead. Nobody's going to want chips anymore. And I'm like, I like the chips. And many fundamental reasons for this before even AI came around. Like, these suckers are oversold. The earnings recession is over. for those particular plays. Here's an opportunity. Anyway, so I went really heavy in chips. But now the story played out with the benefit of AI much faster than anybody thought it would. But now, as it's playing out, I'm catching myself being like, no. I have my concerns about this. As excited as I am about artificial intelligence and some of the practical use cases, I think right now you're probably looking at maybe a 15-20% efficiency boost if you harness AI correctly, whether that is learning how to speak better in presentations, in videos, in being more concise, and tone checking your letters or dispute resolution. I mean, there are so many different things that we could do with it. It's phenomenal. I mean, I have a course, but this is really, a income course, how to make more money course, how to make more money and get SH9T done faster. It features AI because we've got about 40 AI lectures, and they're really, really good. And these are practical lectures on how to actually use this stuff rather than just the basic kind of stuff you see on Twitter or whatever. But anyway, the frustration that I have is beyond this initial boost, the innovation that we're seeing has gone to like zero, in my opinion. I know that sounds harsh and rough, and I'm not here to be like an AI Luddite and say, oh, AI's, crap. AI is great. And it's going to do great things over time. But let me do this. I'm going to graph, and this is why I feel frustrated, and I'm trying to get to that point. So let me graph you this. If I'm going to graph the first derivative of the AI innovation craze, here's what you got. No change, no change, no change. GPT and Bard and all that craze. And no change, no change, no change, no change, no change. This is what it feels like. So it feels like we had this big explosion of innovation. And really, like if we don't go to the first derivative, the graph of AI usage probably looks like this skyrocketing and then kind of like staying here, right? So like we've definitely leveled up. But when you look at the first derivative, you're kind of like, yay, we had an innovation moment, but now you're kind of flat again. Or it feels like the re-innovation isn't that great. Again, don't get me wrong, there's certainly improvements happening. So I think maybe the way to put this is maybe there's a slow and steady improvement, right? But even that is it doesn't seem to be super rapid right now. What kind of risk does this create for chips? Well, here's the risk it creates. The risk it creates is growth that's being priced into these chip companies. And this is a realistic concern. It's not just trying to bandwagon off, oh, it's a red day for chips. It's something that I've been really trying to, I don't want to say cope with, but like deal with. It's like I have this problem because I worry about people doing this. So here's what's happening. First, people are like, okay, NVIDIA's quarterly revenue for chips is now estimated to be, server chips, $7 billion. Excuse me. Oh, I can't wait to get over this. So what people are doing is they're annualizing that. And they're saying, all right, times 4. So NVIDIA will make $28 billion on server chips. And then what they're doing is they're going to say, all right, well, it's going to grow at, well, if it grew at 100% in a quarter, let's just say it'll grow at 50% a year. Okay? So now what people are doing is they're saying, all right, well, let's go 24, 25, 26, 27, and they're extrapolating out. All right, we're going to go and grow this over and over again by 1.5. Let's do this a little bit better. Whatever. We'll just quickly put this together here. So they're growing this revenue so rapidly that that basically you've got this market pricing and perfection for AI growth of 50% of extra spending on server chips. But my concern is ignoring China. If your AI innovation is maybe a little better than this, like you had a big boost and then maybe you've got, some kind of like, I guess if this was a first derivative chart, we'd probably be a little bit more like that, where you've leveled up a little bit. But if we go over here, that's not consistent with 50% growth over and over and over again. It's really consistent with a lot of growth really quickly in the next quarter or two, and then a slowdown in that growth rate pretty rapidly once people have these servers. In fact, I've gotten to this point of thinking to myself, if everybody gets their H100, how much processing power do you really need for these chatbots? And then you upgrade to the H100s, and then what? Then you're flat again. And then you get back to the slow innovation curve of AI until the next big explosion in AI. And all of a sudden now, instead of projecting NVIDIA having $141 billion of server chip revenue in 2027, maybe the more realistic thing is, okay, they had 28 bill, even annualizing that could be generous, but maybe the growth was only 25%. And look how remarkably the numbers change after a few years. Oops, let's actually do it correctly here. If your growth rate is half, and the difference is massive. So look at that. You're less than half by 2027 if your growth rate is that much slower. In this case, it's 25%. You're less than half because of the nature of compounding growth. And that just gets even more extended. So when people do these DCF models, discounted cash flow, and they're running these numbers into 2033, trying to do these 10-year DCFs on AI, they're assuming that the AI innovation is going to keep growing as rapidly as GPT did here. But what if it was just a flash in the pan? So I personally am frustrated, and this kind of goes back to why I said I was frustrated, because I loved the chips so much at the end of last year, and I think chips are going to be so important for the next decade. But part of me has this struggle of like, what if these sales are just a flash in the pan? Like we had a big boost in sales, and then we level back off slightly above where we were before, like slightly above trend. In fact, that's another way to analyze that, is like, think about it like stimulus money for COVID, right? So let's say that the trend of personal, disposable income, the trend of personal disposable income looks like that. Let's call that the trend, okay? And then you get COVID that comes around, and all of a sudden you get this hole and this massive spike of money that people get, and then you're back to this sort of negative hole, and then you're kind of, bouncing back to trend. This is a return to trend. And maybe that trend is a little bit higher, right? So maybe we say, all right, now we're kind of like this, and that purple trend line actually needs to kind of start bending up, right? You do something like this. And so this extra bit right here is just the net benefit from COVID. That's fine, but is the trend line here now? No, of course not. And so that is a concern I have for AI, and I'm concerned that analysts are pricing in this sort of Goldilockish-ness here, rather than what might just be a nominal boost, a more nominal boost. So that's my take. Let me see what other notes I had here on the partnership between Snowflake and NVIDIA. AI Factory was really what they were talking about. I think they're trying to lean into this idea of like, don't know what to invest in AI? Well, Snowflake is now the shovel seller. No, you're not. You're not the shovel seller. NVIDIA and TSMC and ASML, they're the shovel sellers. But and then this like supports text to image, image to text, like all this stuff. There are great innovations already for it, and now what companies are doing is they're just plugging it in. Like yesterday, who was it? It was I think it was Ross. He's like, "Have you ever seen a lion eat?" He was responding to somebody's hypothetical joke. Omar here on Twitter was making a joke. He's like, all animals are vegans. Why can't we be too? Obviously, we know all animals aren't vegan. So he's joking. But Ross replies, ever seen a lion eat? I'm like, Ross, he's joking. But anyway, so I reply and I go, Omar's story checks out. And here's a little AI-generated image of a lion and his, fruit that he's eating. Obviously, this isn't real, but it looks pretty dang awesome. And it took me all of like 10 seconds to make. Okay, great. Does that, did that I mean, it increases my productivity somewhat, but to some extent, in this example, it's also just a joke. Look, for some purposes, it's fantastic. Again, I think AI can give you that 15% productivity boost for sure, maybe even more if you implement it correctly. But as far as this all in on AI, software makes me the most nervous, but I've started to get nervous also about chips. So, do you mean AI is transitory? No, I don't want to say it's transitory. Like, it's going to be here to stay, right? This is not to say it's like, okay, ChatGPT is here and now it's not. No. That would be like transitory. I would say the rapid boost of chip sales might be somewhat transitory, potentially. Are some industries more ripe for innovation from AI? Well, you mentioned transportation, hospitality, entertainment. I actually think it would be more like healthcare and to some extent finance. Those probably more. In the future, I think, yes, with transportation, but that's kind of like your FSD style artificial intelligence. I actually think that's probably your most intelligent artificial intelligence to some extent that exists today. It's full self-driving, the Tesla FSD. I think it's really, really incredible. Hospitality, entertainment, I think these might be a little bit harder. This is still very labor involved. But look, I remember working at Jamba Juice back, how long ago was that? I don't know, 15 years ago. And one of the managers is like, oh, we have this software that's like, schedule 3 people for today. And the manager's looking at it going like, I think it's going to be a slow day. Why does it say schedule 3 people? Like, I think it's going to be slow. And the software had all the big data of the prior 10 years of Jamba Juice sales. and when people come in, when the humidity is this level and the weather is this level and this is that and blah, 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 and the holiday schedule and all, it puts all that big data together. And the system's like, no. Listen to the AI. Schedule 3 people. So the manager's like, all right, whatever, I'll schedule 3 people. And, the first hour of the shift, the boss is like, I knew it. Stupid computer, wasting our money again. And then all of a sudden you get like a 3-hour-long rush. And then afterwards, the manager's like, damn, how'd the AI do that? But they didn't call it AI then. They called it a computer program. So it's all just like been rebranded, Anywho, those are my thoughts on this AI stuff. Okay, good.
Now, I want you to know this. When it comes to AI, time is what's going to make you money. And if you can prove that value to an employer, you'll always be able to be employed. So this is another way of making sure that you don't get replaced